Well, hello everybody. It's currently snowing here, and I'm taking a look out the window of the X195, and it'll probably be gone tomorrow. But that's Virginia for you, where I live out on the coast. It comes and goes. You know, it's pretty. And so I thought I'd put out a video on my camping experience. I've been camping probably 55 years that I can remember, as a child, and to today. Um, as a child, I would go camping with my dad, and we would hunt and fish, and we would fish in the spring and hunt in the winter, and we would tent camp. We would sleep in the back of a truck. I remember even camping in a hot tent when I was young, where we had a wood stove when we go deer hunting in the winter. If we were gone for a week or two. As a kid, my dad bought a bread truck, and it was reason why I remember, because the thing was aluminum, and it was kind of neat looking, and it was probably like a 58, 59 model truck, and he made a RV out of it. He made a motorhome. He had I remember the back of it had two doors that swang out, and that's how you could get in and out, or you could come through the front sliding door. And had two seats up there with two bulkheads behind the seat. Had two walls, and I remember him having two sofas, well, what I called a sofa, on each side behind the bulkhead, all the way to the rear of the truck, and that's where we would sit. And it had two bunks above that you could pull up, and I don't know how he had them fastened, but they would stay up, and he would take the cushions off the top bunks and use that for the backrest on both sofas. We had some type of table in there. I don't really recall if it was something he made or bought, or what kind of table it was, but I remember in between the two sofas there was a table toward the back. Um, and then I remember up front between the two seats, he had some type of kerosene heater. And I don't really remember a whole lot about it, but I remember there being a kerosene heater, and that's how we heated it. So I guess he must have cracked one of the windows or something to get some ventilation in there. And then I don't recall any electricity or any kind of lights, electric lights or battery operated lights. Could have been, I just don't remember. But I do remember a Coleman lantern hanging from the ceiling in there. And that's how I remember getting light and heat also from that. And like I say, we used that for hunting and camping and fishing and all that type of stuff. And then as I grew older, as a older teenager and stuff, friends of mine and myself, we would go deer hunting up in the national forest. And I remember we'd find good locations up in the mountains, and we would we still hunted. We didn't use any dogs or anything to hunt with, and we would find where we wanted our stands to be, and basically that was leaning up against a tree, looking down a ridge or a valley on each side of the ridge or whatever. And so I may be on this ridge, my friend may be on the other ridge, or depends on where we're at. He may be just a couple 100 feet behind me. We were always in a position where we could never fire on each other or whatever. But and then we would have a place where we would have like a little campground where we would make some kind of makeshift fire pit and have a fire and just kind of hang out there. And we would go back to our tree stand, and we'd just fall asleep there, whether sleeping bag or whatever, and just lean up against a tree or on the ground. And by sunset, you're already on your hunting spot and ready to go. Uh, I remember one time my dad built I called it a fort because it looked like a fort to me, as a kid, but it was probably 8 by 8, 10 by 10, could have been a little bit bigger. Kind of a square structure where he had taken cut trees down and stacked it up probably 6 feet or so tall, maybe a little bit taller, and we could get inside of it. And then he had a roof on it that was made out of logs, and you could get up on top of the structure and use that as a stand to hunt off of. I don't remember any heat or anything inside of it, but I just remember it was a place for us to get into out of the elements and out of the wind or whatever, and give us a little bit of a protection from outside. And about 18, I went into the Army, and I spent 6 years in there. And we did sleep. Well, we had to sleep in foxholes and pup tents. I don't know that I would really call that camping, but uh, we did sleep outside on the ground. And I used to bass fish a lot and saltwater fish a lot. And probably in the last 10 or 15 years, I've been uh, camping and that kind of thing again. So I started traveling probably 15 years ago from Virginia all the way across the United States. I don't know, a couple dozen times now, and been just about everywhere in the lower 48. But never really been an RV park kind of camper. I'm not saying I've never stopped in an RV park, just on the, need a place to stay the night at and pull in and, you know, do that if you don't have anywhere to do it. Because some states it's really hard to find a place to spend the night at if you're traveling. We've done some camping in national forest campgrounds, but normally there's no amenities there. There's maybe a pit toilet or something, a fire ring, picnic table, tent pad or something like that, but no real glamping. Haven't ever really done that. Never really had an interest in going and having a camper right beside me. Kind of like my space and want to get out. And so I've pretty much been overlanding and dispersed camping my whole life before it was called boondocking or dispersed camping or whatever. I was just camping. And I've had a bunch of campers the last 10 or 15 years. Uh, Smallest camper I ever really had was a Mission Overland Summit that I would pull with my Jeep, and that was a pretty nice rig. And the worst camper I ever had was the Mission Overland Approach. Got a video on that. Wasn't much of a camper. My favorite camper was probably, let's see, the Northern Light truck camper, 811 wet bath. That was probably an all-around good camper. You could take it wherever you went, and you didn't have to leave it. And it was a little tall, so you had to watch where you went on trails and stuff as far as hitting tree branches and stuff like that. But it parked just about anywhere you wanted to. I had a Gladiator truck with a Alucab rooftop tent on that. And that was a pretty nice rig. Um, I have an Alucab tent that I've had on several F250 and 350 pickup trucks. I still currently have one of those on an F350. That's a pretty good off the ground tent camping situation. I like it. It's nice. Winnebago Travado, I think is what it was called. I even put a lift kit on that, and it just couldn't go where I wanted it to go. It just wasn't made for the type of camping that I like to do. So end up getting rid of that. I had a little Ruger trailer. I don't know if you ever heard of those, but it's a little pull behind off-road trailer. Some people put tents on and stuff like that. I just used it for uh, supplies with my Jeep. Just gave me a place to put things because on a Jeep you don't have a whole lot of storage area. And then I've got a Jeep that I took the rear seat out and put a platform in there with a house mattress and a Dometic fridge and a Blue Eddy power bank thing to have power everything. And that's probably the most versatile vehicle I've had as far as going camping in. It can just about go anywhere you want it to go, and your amenities aren't much, but you got a place to sleep and something to keep cold, take a stove and cook or cook on a fire. We had an Airstream 23 Flying Cloud, put a lift kit on that. I know a lot of people boondocking Airstreams. It just wasn't for me. I couldn't. But even with the lift kit, I still couldn't drag it down the roads and trails I was going on without tearing it up. So we got rid of that. I had an X145 Imperial Outdoor. That was a pretty nice little camper, pretty lightweight. Got a Project M. I have one of those currently, a topper for one of the trucks I have. And that's a really good setup. It's small, but it's big enough to move around. It's not as big as a Northern Light truck camper. Doesn't have the amenities, but it's still a place to get out of the weather. Got a diesel heater for that, so that keeps me warm. Got a couple ceiling fans or vent fans that'll keep the air moving when it's hot outside, keep you cool. Um, and then currently I'm sitting in the Imperial Outdoor Explorer X195. That's pretty much the Mac Daddy of RV campers as far as I'm concerned, pull behinds. Um, I did a video a couple weeks ago on the X195 about a 2-year review. If you want to go back and take a look, it's not really a camping video. It's just a 2-year review on the X195. We got Christmas coming up, so I'll be hopefully somewhere right after Christmas. We'll be taking a couple week trip. Not sure where we're going yet, but we're gonna go camping somewhere. I don't know what else I've left off. I'm sure I've left some kind of RV or something. Um, I have been looking at the Storyteller Class B vans. They're nice, and I think they would do what I want them to do. But the van life is a tight fit, and they're expensive. And I don't know if I want to spend that kind of money on a van that's $200,000-300,000. That's people do it. I just don't know if I want to be one of those people. If you have any comments or concerns or anything you want to tell me, feel free to comment. And I'd appreciate it if you'd like and subscribe. And thanks for watching.